Dominican trap.
Yo, what it do? I got some reverb here. I don't know what's going on with that. Give me one sec. Let me remove that. All right. There's still an echo. I don't know why it's doing that. I got all these new graphics, so it's kind of. Let me see here. If there's a mute to connect to my. I'm gonna put up an ad here.
Dominican trap.
I feel like there's still gonna be an echo. Man, this is crazy. Oh man. Let me see if I can figure this out. Be blessed. That's right. Y'all don't hear an echo on IG? All right. Let me just check my audio. Earpids. Does anybody hear an echo on Uncle Ted on YouTube? Do you hear an echo? I got an echo on my end. Give me one sec, fellas. All right. I think I got it figured out. Can everybody hear me right now? Someone can just confirm for me that you can hear me. We'll get going here. I had left another browser window open, so it was reverbing on my end. So, okay, good to go. Yeah, I don't know if y'all noticed, I got all these new graphics and stuff. I got a buddy who's helped me out, and he's legit, man. I mean, kind of making this like a legit production. So that's kind of my goal, is to kind of get this thing, bigger and better as I move along. I'm kind of learning on the fly. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Hope y'all are all doing good today. Obviously, we'll do, our typical recap of the previous game and preview of the next game. We'll go ahead and start off with the Bills game. And, every week we're just reminded of how and why I made my username Houston Stressans. It's the same theme we've seen all last year and this year. We are the better team throughout the game, and we dominate the box score, yet we play with our food, and the game comes down to the final seconds nearly every time. I have some theories as to why, a bunch of different reasons, but it's definitely frustrating as a fan just because you watch the game and you know where we should be. But still, this big picture, though, I think everyone has a lot of concerns and they're all valid, and I agree with most of them. But the fact that we have all these, concerns or flaws, and we're still 4-1 and have a 2-game lead in the division, is crazy. I mean, CJ Stroud has, he's played, despite the turnovers last game, he played really well and he played pretty good the last game, but he still has yet to play anywhere near his ceiling, in my opinion. And the same for the team overall. So if you factor those things in and see that we're 4-1 with the 2-game lead in the division, I mean, obviously you're frustrated with, the issues we've had, but you have to look forward and be like, man, this is crazy. We're good. But like I mentioned, it's the same theme that we've had, last year and then early on this year. And for me, it's kind of frustrating. I really thought, last year that was just a young team, young coaches, and then this year we'll come out and learn how to, step on opponents' throats and finish games. But it turns out it's the same issue. So I don't know if it's still part of that, if it's still young coaches, young players. A lot of it honestly comes down to self-inflicted penalties. Mistakes. This game we'll go into turnovers were a reason why. I guess the Jags game was a reason why with the turnover. You had the muff punt. And then I do think one part of it too is DeMeco Ryans being a defensive-minded head coach. And I don't have anything to prove this. This is just my thought. I may or may not be right, but you can tell he tends to lean on his defense. And at least this year, this defense is elite. And last year was good too, but this defense this year is definitely notches above. And you can tell that's the way he wants to win games. And you listen to him talk in all of his interviews. He's a defensive-minded head coach. He wants to play field position, time of possession. He wants to play conservative on offense, especially if we know that the defense can handle the opposing offense. Like we had Josh Allen 9 for 30. We knew he couldn't do anything. It was the same thing in the Bears game. We knew Caleb Williams couldn't do anything. So he kind of gets a feel for that and then kind of, I think, just tamps it back offensively and just limits mistakes. And we still have the turnovers despite all that. So, and there's a myriad of reasons. Those are just some of the reasons I think why. I'll get to some comments real quick before we kind of go into the box score. Shout out Uncle Ted. Appreciate you, bro. Thanks for the feedback. Patton, this is my guy, Mailman. If y'all don't know Texans on 3, y'all need to watch them every Tuesday and Thursday. I try to get on their show when I can. If not, I'm in the comments. Those guys are awesome. Those are my brothers. Z Beth says, are we stressing or blessing with this live stream right now? I'm blessing. I was stressing at first, and that was all my fault, but now I'm blessing, and I'll only get better as we go. We got some cool new features for you guys. So can you drag the browser windows down and zoom in? I think we hit our stride at Green Bay. I hope, man. So obviously, we'll get into the injury news and whatnot. I guess I can, go into the Nico injury news before the game. I guess I can go after the Bills game as we preview the Pats game. But I tend to agree, Pat. I believe part of this is young team still. I also believe it could be injuries as much as they have. That's a great point, too. I mean, you have to think about the players that have been out. I mean, the Bills game, Nico was out. Tanks missed the game. You can't forget about Danico Autry, Christian Harris. We've had guys get banged up, and right now and I know a lot of us get frustrated as fans. Obviously Mixon's been out and Pierce. We get frustrated as fans, but every year we're reminded of how physical this game is. It happens every year. It's injuries happen; they're a part of the game. And then, we can't help but get frustrated about players getting hurt or wanting them to come back. I will say, I'll go ahead and touch on the Nico injury right now. Obviously, it's devastating news. He's the best receiver in the league, potentially, at the minimum top 3, which is crazy. That dialogue has quickly shifted to that. But that being said, I had wrote an article on my website earlier today if you want to check it out. But some of the points I made was, hey, he's out, but we're still good. He's out for a minimum of 4 games, which is going to be this Patriots game, the Colts at home, the Jets, and the Packers. So Packers will be the second game in that order. So 2 of those 4 are pretty winnable, and then the other 2 are tough games, the Packers and the Jets. But I'm still optimistic. And what I've thought about is, like, obviously, we have a lot of weapons and other guys will get targets, but a lot of people were concerned about other receivers not getting targets here and there throughout the year. But if you think about it, just think about how dominant Nico Collins is, and he's open all the time, catches the ball every time. If you're CJ Stroud and Mr. Dependable is there, you're going to give him 10, 12, 15 targets a game. And as a byproduct, someone like Tank or Diggs may have their numbers go to the wayside. That doesn't mean that's not because those guys aren't good. It's just like, I had this for sure option, so I'm going to use it, and it's worked. So the silver lining to me is we can really get the other guys in the offense going. I know a lot of us have wanted to see Tank Dell get going. Diggs has been pretty consistent, but hasn't had a huge breakout game. He's just Mr. Reliable. So I would expect the 2 of them to step up. One area I can really see Tank Dell stepping up in is the scramble drill, the off-script part of the game. We all saw it last year. Tank Dell and CJ Stroud were dynamic as heck in that. I think T.Y. Hilton was on one of the podcasts with Zaire Franklin earlier this year, basically saying that CJ Stroud and Tank Dell were like him, T.Y. Hilton, and Andrew Luck. And he referenced the ability of the off-scripts to be on that same page. And the thing about those scramble plays is they really can break open a game or change a game. You think about the one against the Cardinals last year, it was a 50-yard touchdown off script play. So yeah, this year, it's shifted to Nico early on this year. And with the way our O-line has been, there's been a lot of pressures. I think we're 30+% pressures on dropbacks. And so CJ's flushing to the right almost every time. And almost every time looking for Nico and finding him. But now Nico's gone. I would imagine that CJ still flushes the pocket. But now with Nico out, I think he's going to be looking for Tank. So I would expect Tank to have big numbers there. Diggs, he's, this offseason, it was evident that we needed to add a receiver. When Nico had gone out for a couple games, when Tank was out, the fall off was pretty drastic, and we saw what our offense looked like without having 3 legit receivers and little depth. So we all knew it was a priority to get a receiver. And then the Texans not only said that and addressed that, but they said they needed a receiver that was also a veteran receiver, and they did just that in getting Diggs. And it's already paid dividends thus far, and it's paying dividends now with Nico out. CJ today mentioned, when asked about how Diggs is going to step up, said that Stressan has already embraced this role of, being a leader and needing to step up the first day in practice without Nico. So he'll do his share there. This could open up targets for the tight ends. Schultz has kind of had a somewhat underwhelming season this year. Kate Stover is a great target. So those guys could get a lot of looks. But the one guy who's going to get more playing time as a direct result of Nico being out is Xavier Hutchinson. Nico's the big X receiver. In every offense, you got the big, tall receiver, the big body receiver. Xavier Hutchinson is a direct backup. He's who went into the game when Nico went out. He showed some good plays last year. He had a great preseason. He's made a couple plays this year. He's not quite as big as Nico, and he's not as fast as Nico. So that's really where Nico is a unicorn, in my opinion. 6'4", 220, and runs a 4.4. His ability to stretch the field at that size and weight is insane. So that's where I do wonder, though. Typically, your X receivers on the field for like every snap, no matter what personnel you're in, no matter how many receivers on the field. If it's 2 or 1 receiver, the X is always the 1 receiver on the field. I wonder, though, if we go to some 2 wide receiver sets, 12 personnel, 1 running back, 2 tight ends that we might, and 2 wide receivers that we might. I wonder if they start to mix in Diggs and Tank on some of those to get some more of a vertical threat. That'll be an interesting thing to see. But nonetheless, I'm confident. I mean, other receivers that'll step up. I know a lot of people don't want to hear this, but I think Woods will get involved. I mean, he's been all reliable. He was one of the first names mentioned today in CJ's press conference when asked about other players stepping up. He just willingly spit his name out. Mechie, I would really love for Mechie to get involved, but it sucks with Nico being out. I think it's a blessing in disguise. I think we're good. Let's just go through some more comments and we'll get into the Bills game. Uncle Ted, I appreciate it, man. I'm trying to upgrade everything. It's a slow-moving process. Let's see what we got here. Shouldn't that be the reason to be more loose on offense then? I'm not sure what that was in regards to, but I'm hoping we do. Let's see. Yeah, but like CJ said today, it's facts. It's next man up, and this is what D'Amico's talked about, is we have a lot of depth, and so they've already addressed this problem prior to the season by building as much depth as they can on the roster. So now they have confidence in every player, and every player has confidence in themselves to step up. So good opportunity. Exactly. Mr. Optimistic, looking at the optimistic side. So this 4-game stretch, I would love for us to go undefeated, but I would be super content if we went 3-1. 2-2 would not be the end of the world, but I think going 3-1 would be a big goal to have and what we should aspire to do, especially with the back end of the schedule. Get to a couple IG comments. German got packs with the H-Town. What's up, brother? Appreciate you. Easy shooting on there. So we got right here. The good thing about Stroud is that he actually tries to throw the ball to his other receivers. That is true. That is true. I mean, this connection with Nico is like the first time that I've seen him kind of hone in on somebody, but it's like, this is just because the guy's always open, you can't really blame him for that. But yeah, I mean, so back to this point, I mean, last year when the Texans before the season had the worst receiving core, CJ did so much with so little. I mean, obviously the receivers in hindsight are now Tank and Nico were like, they were not good, and at the end of the year they were amazing. But CJ had a lot of games with not a lot of weapons and still produced, and with patchwork O-line. So not in the mood for you. IG says, man, y'all gonna be a problem. Not even an H-Town fan, but y'all good. I appreciate you, bro. If y'all are on Instagram, follow Not in the Mood for, and then you. He makes some good highlight videos. That's all respect, man. All love. Christian, my Titans friend. The website is fire, by the way. Don't know why I was on there, but it looks cool. Appreciate it, man. You're welcome to hang out as much as you want. I mean, you can be a Texans fan while the Titans are in tank mode. I mean, y'all are pretty much on your way. Tank Dale's about to feast. Facts. Tank's about to break out. Yep, everyone agrees. We're about to eat good for the next few weeks with Dale. Facts. What's up, Brandon? Shout out Brandon. Brandon's awesome Texans fan. That's what I told people who wanted the pick we traded away for Diggs at the time. Diggs is going to contribute a lot more immediately than someone who is currently a junior in college. And also, too, a funny thing about that is we traded the Minnesota pick, and Minnesota's looking like one of the best teams in the league. That pick could be a super late round pick by a year's end, But yeah, we'll get into the box score here. Let me make it a little bit bigger. There we go. All right. Oh shit! And I closed the window. Damn it. Man, I had all my tabs open too. That was a rookie mistake. Let me pull up this real quick. All right, ESPN. I'm such a noob, man. All right, NFL scores. Let me put up a video for y'all while I pull this up, just so you're not having to look at too much boring stuff. All right. I got a couple things that kind of keep y'all occupied while I have this dead time. But all right, yeah, let's go through the box score. How it kind of we always do. Team stats like to go through first. There we go. All right. And if y'all can't see, just let me know in the chat, and we can make sure it's legible. But yes, I mean, first downs is pretty even, 16 to 18. Passing first downs, 5 to 13. First down from penalties, we gave them 2. We had 0. Third down was a great third down game for us, 50%, and they were less than 50%, way less. Fourth down, 0 for 1. They were 1 for 1. Total yards, this is where, 425 to 276, like we dominated this game. Yards per play, obviously higher. Passing, 331 to 126. We'll get into this, but us absolutely shutting down Josh Allen, that everyone is – I could not have been happier with the way this game went. All this dialogue all offseason. Like, I would just post videos of Diggs without any kind of narrative behind it. And every time I did, all these Bills fans would come in there and just start talking crap about Diggs. I'm like, y'all got nothing better to do than follow your ex-girlfriend around and just like try to like crap on him all the time with like unwarranted, unprovoked. And so this was nice for this. I mean, the Bills pretty much gambled on, we don't need Diggs. Josh Allen's a superhero. He can move with nobody. And obviously Shakir was out of the game. But, I think if Shakir's in the game, it's not much of a difference. Regardless, Josh Allen went 9 for 30. That was like one of the worst games by any quarterback in a long time, much less for Josh Allen. And then Steph on the other end was a big factor in us winning. So in my eyes, it couldn't have gone any better as far as vindication for Diggs. And it just kills me too. Like, obviously Diggs, played a role in getting out of there, but the way it's being casted in the media is like he's 100% the reason to blame. Like, Josh Allen is completely non-complicit. Sean McDermott, who's completely non-complicit, who shows he's a bad coach with some mistakes. It's all BS. So it was a big vindication for us fans and Stephon Diggs. So we had a bad passing game. Each team had a sack, so it wasn't a lot of crazy D-line play. Rushing didn't crack 100 on our end. They started out hot and finished with 150, so it looks like we kind of shut it down late. Penalties, again, I think we had 0 at half, and then we end up with 7 for 65. That third quarter was deja vu, like here we go again. And this really is still one of our biggest problems to date, in my opinion, is these damn penalties. I know a lot of people have a lot of frustrations, but I think I'm going to write an article on this tomorrow, basically ranking my qualms of what's going wrong, and penalties. It has to be at the top. It has to. It's just terrible. Red zone, again, not bad. I mean, 1 for 2, and they were 1 for 3. So I know a lot of people think, obviously, we weren't great at red zone last year. So you just assume a reason why we're getting all these yards. So we are number 6 in total yards on offense, number 1 in passing, and then mid to bottom in rushing. So we have a lot of yards, but then like points were like, just below the middle. I think it's like 20 point something, 24 to 20 points a game. But anyways, it's not correlating. The production in yard is not correlating to points. Big reason why is, first people want to say, oh, well, the red zone sucks. That's not true. We're, I think, number 4 in the league in red zone conversion, which is 69%. Nice. So red zone's not the issue. It's more so the middle of the field. And it's obviously, we all know it's the third downs, it's third and longs. And then, this could be debated, but in my opinion, from what I've looked at and dove into, a lot of people want to say, oh, well, it's just the first down runs, which again was an issue last year, but it's not this year. Our pass rate overall is like 60+% to 40% or 39% running. So we're throwing it more than we're running it. That's overall, not on first downs. But the big thing to me was EPA on first downs or early downs rushing was like 28th or so, bottom of the league. So then you think, oh, that's the problem. Well, no, passing was also like that too. So passing EPA on early downs is also terrible. Early downs too. When we pass, we get sacks a lot of times that are drive killers, but really it's just the penalties early on. And then another big issue is running the ball. The run game is just non-existent ever since Mixon left. And I have noticed too that the past couple of weeks I've been tracking the breakdown on snaps on PFF from zone attempts to gap rushing attempts. And for the first time, I think ever with Slowick as a Texan, the past 2 games, we've had more attempts in gap scheme than zone scheme. So that tells me a couple things. I would like to know the answer to this. One, he's just trying to mix things up just to try and get the run game going. One of the gap play runs that he had was that counter, the pull and the block by, I believe it was Stover, maybe at the tight end, and Akers had a huge hole and could have cut any which direction he had anywhere to run. That was a gap scheme play. But it also could be maybe he's adjusting to our O-line. I know a lot of us have said that we didn't really draft a lot of these guys to fit the scheme. They were already there. And so you kind of have a certain type of lineman, and now you're trying to mold them into a different scheme. Doesn't always work. Maybe that's the case. Maybe he's saying, you know what, I have to adapt and run some more gap scheme. But regardless, when we get into the Patriots game, I do like that the potential of Dameon Pierce coming back and being in an offense that is more willing to run some gap scheme stuff. Let me hit some comments here real quick. Let's see. My Titans friend, thanks for the offer. I'll play the client. That's all good, bro. 28-3 Texans. I could definitely see that. Texans Nation, shout out Trevon. Brandon, how do you think losing Nico affects the efficiency of the passing offense, which is currently ranked about? I think we'll be fine. I think it's ho-hum. I mean, we'll get into it. Patriots run cover 1 more than any other coverage, and they also run a lot of cover 3, and then some others 2 high shells. But they run a lot of man. So, regardless, even if we do keep getting the same 2 high shells, it's the same thing. You just got to go to different options, in my opinion. Is it just me, or I think we should put Tank at kickoff punt returns? I 100% agree on the punt returns. I said that earlier on the AFC roundtable. Woods, he had a couple good returns, but then he had a couple bad returns, fair catching inside the 10. I think that's just like an instinct type thing. I mean, Tank is just a baller. He's a gamer. Like, he can kind of, in those pressure moments, know he has instincts of when to catch it, not to catch it. But I've been preaching this. I mean, I know people want to shout injury, but I really don't think there's much of an injury concern at punt return, to be honest. But he was like the most electric punt returner in college at U of H. And even for us, when he's had a couple punt returns, I mean, he can absolutely change the game single-handedly by returning punts. At the very least, I trust him the most to catch the ball and to make the right decision on those fair catches inside the 10, whether to let it go or bounce. So I'm with you on that. Kick return, I was high on, but I don't know now. It's kind of been a weird deal on that. Mr. Optimistic, excited to see what D-line looks like when Otter gets back. Facts, man, that could be a huge development. That could solve a lot of issues for us. Brandon, I don't think we want Tank taking the extra hits. I mean, I don't really know. Punt returns aren't too vicious. He's about to get a lot more. I feel you. Brandon Woods was just always trying to return inside the 10. Yeah. I mean, he made up for it at the end, but yeah, those weren't good. And then that game too, we'll go over it, but like, I want to say we lost probably at least 100 yards, 100 to 150 yards of field position from the punt game on both sides. Their punter was absolutely lights out. Woods had a couple fair catches inside the 5 on the 2-yard line that he could have let bounce out to go to the 20. And then Tommy Townsend, man, I mean, I don't know what's going on with him, but he's been terrible. I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat it. And, some of their scoring drives were gifted to them by, less than good punts by him. So, that was lost yardage right there. So that's something we need to clean up big time. Cernet's connection, I really think it's the culture in the locker room that D'Amico's built. Everyone's bought in. Facts, I agree. I mean, it's something that's underrated. It's a big thing. I wonder if they trade for a Sims replacement. I don't know, man. It is kind of a weird deal that you kept him as a 7th receiver to be a punt returner, and then now he's benched for a game. So it's like, well, why did you keep him? I don't know what they're going to do with that. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised though if D'Amico puts him back out there and gives another chance too. I don't know. Yes, Mr. Optimistic, I'm with you on this. We'll get to that after the Bills game. Phrasing, not gonna lie, I'm here salty. Yeah, bro, the Aziz flu game. He was sick, but I did not realize how sick he was until I watched Aaron Wilson's video today. He basically didn't sleep at all. He woke up at 2 a.m. and was up the whole day. He said he threw up after the game, and he said he wasn't healthy until Tuesday morning. So, I mean, his performance, sick or not, was impressive, but given all that information, was absolutely impressive. That was incredible. Let me hit some IG ones. 817 Chino, what's up, man? Appreciate you. Logan 90, do you think H-Town will make the Super Bowl? We got a shot, bro, and we're still just continue improving each week. We're in a good spot, right where we want to be. Let's finish going over the box score here. The time of possession. Obviously, the turnovers what kept them in the game. But let me do this here. Box score. Yeah, so Josh Allen, bro, 9 for 30, 131 yards. And the funny thing about this is one of those completions was right here, 49-yard touchdown to Keon Coleman, a simple 5-yard hitch route. It wasn't anything he did. So 49 of his 131 yards were from a 5-yard hitch route on 4th and 3 or whatever it was. And then even on that play, there was a false start not called. You could argue it was a push-off. I mean, anyways, it was just we absolutely shut down Josh Allen. Defense played their ass off. CJ played a great game. We had those 2 turnovers. And honestly, I think y'all saw it. The interception he threw, once you saw it on tape, it wasn't bad at all. I mean, you just have to tip your hat to, I believe it was Terrell Bernard. I believe he's from Houston too, and that was his first game back. But I mean, he made a good play. He basically baited CJ. He ran on another route and then jumped on the one behind it. So I mean, sometimes you got to tip your hat. And then the fumble, you would obviously like CJ to have better ball protection and keep the ball. He was getting a little loose with it, but that was a pretty quick pressure allowed on the right side. I believe it was Blake Fisher. But yeah, you can't fumble there, but luckily defense held him to a field goal. But I mean, 331 yards. He's 4th or so in the league in passing yards. And this is something too that I've noticed for the running game. Every week it feels like to the naked eye that Cam Akers is not good. And then you go look at the box score, he's one of our best rushers. Let me see if I can get it to do yards per carry. It's supposed to say yards per carry. Okay, it's gonna be small now, but he averaged 4.7 yards per carry. He had 9 for 42. But then you watch the game during the game, he did okay. And then you assume Dare did good, but Dare rushing the ball as a legit first down back, 15 carries for 30 yards, 2 yards per carry. That's not good. But he is a very, very, very good third down back. So he had 56 for 57 receiving. So, I mean, he, again, was a critical piece. But I did like that they started Dare this game because Akers, hadn't quite shown what he had shown in the preseason. And Dare had some good runs in the preseason. So I like that they are willing to try to see if someone's better. But I think now going forward, let's just say Dameon Pierce is not playing. It's the same backfield. Dameon Pierce and Mixon, I would want Cam Akers to be the RB1 and then Dare to be more of the RB2 / third down back. But I am optimistic that Dameon Pierce will come back. I had tweeted it earlier. I kind of hope that we rest Mixon another week for 2 things. 1, for his health to make sure he's good. And 2, to kind of give us a good look at Pierce to give him a chance to be that RB1. I know it's not popular with a lot of fans, but between Akers, Dare, and Pierce, I would want to see Pierce. And we can't forget either two, whether we agreed or not, Dameon Pierce was the RB2 going into the year before he hurt his hamstring. He was the one who was getting those reps. He had a couple good runs against the Colts. And so, I was one of the main ones that was kind of criticizing him this preseason for his runs, not having good vision again. But there is a couple things to remember now in hindsight that one, it was a small sample size. I mean, it was X amount of carries, and two, it's a preseason game. Obviously, you see Akers was a world beater in the preseason and not as good in the regular season, so it doesn't necessarily translate to the regular season. So I would be excited to see that. And then the last thing that I've noticed too, like I said earlier, the zone versus gap scheme runs. We're running more gap scheme. And Damian Pierce, his rookie year, was incredible gap scheme offense, and we assume he wasn't as good the next year because of zone scheme. It could have just been he had an off year, but a lot of it was zone scheme vision based. But now, if we see that Slovic is willing to adapt to run plays that are more suitable to Pierce's running style, that could be a good thing. And then let's just say it hasn't, and it's not. You can always put in Akers and Dari after, but I think he deserves the right to be the RB1. And I would like I think it's good practice for us. I guess is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, so early on, their running game was churning. But I mean, if you look at the numbers, like James Cook tore us up. Cam Akers averaged more yards per carry. James Cook just had 11 more carries than him. So I mean, Cam Akers isn't as bad as we think. He had 20 for 82 for 4.1. Akers had 9 for 42 for 4.7. And then, they had 150 yards rushing. So really our rushing defense isn't as bad as we think, especially in this game. It was just early on, and you kind of forget that. But 54 of their 150 yards rushing were from Josh Allen at quarterback. So, I mean, their running backs had 82 and 15 yards rushing. So, I mean, we shut down their running game via running backs. Pretty good for a very good running team. So that's very impressive and good to see. The receivers didn't do jack. They only had some guys that had they only had 9 completions. Stephon Diggs alone had 6. Seeing Stephon Diggs have more yards than all their receivers was awesome, especially with one reception for 49 from Coleman. The bomb to Nico was insane. I would like to note, people won't like to hear this, but that was set up by a play action fake on first down. I know we hate those first down dreaded runs that don't always work, but there is some value in them. You can't really have that big 60-plus yard bomb to Nico without that threat of that run. Just something to keep in mind. But yeah, and then Diggs was solid. Tank Dell got involved a little bit, but that's pretty much what I got on that. We can kind of switch over to PFF grades. We'll kind of breeze through them and see what we can find on that. Again, when we go through PFF, it's important to remember it is a tool. It is not an end-all, be-all. It is good to use for each of us and our own opinions to see if it matches what we see with our eyes on the film or in live action. But for the most part, I think it's pretty spot on personally. But, I think you do need to question, like if it doesn't always jive, you can always point that out for sure. But again, Nico, he only played, let's see how many snaps he played. Is this going to be the whole season right here? Let me see if there's a snap or not. Let's go to schedule. Yeah. That's crazy. Why is it doing that? What's good, Dante? Appreciate you tuning in, bro. Brandon, Ernest is a beast. I'm not sure what you're talking about. All right, so here we go. Let's go to offense. Yeah, Nico, great grade. CJ had a great grade. I mean, those 2 turnovers didn't really nick them that much. Diggs has been in like the mid to high 70s pretty much every game, which is, it seems like it's a bad grade, but that's a good grade for PFF. Juice has been there's an argument that Juice Scruggs has been our best lineman. I think that's a pretty valid argument. LT has been good pass pro, but obviously he's had, his hiccups with penalties and whatnot. But Juice has been steady Eddie, solid, man. He has been such a development for us. Let's see here. Joe's World on IG says, do you think Pierce will play more Sunday? I do. I think he's RB1, man. If he's healthy. Because, I mean, he was the backup to Mixon. I don't see why that would change. Bug 392 have to run the ball to set the play action. Facts. I know people don't want to hear it, but I mean it's part of the game. I wish we could throw the ball 50 times a game, but it just doesn't work like that. LT, not a great game. Ooh, his pass blocking was that's Case Stover. I'm sorry. So Cade had let's see, you're going down the list. Shaq Mason did decent. He's kind of had some up and downs this year. Cam Akers did decent. Hutch did decent. Stover did not great. Tunsil, not great. Pass blocking, okay. Tank, not great. Kenyon Green, not great. Pass blocking, great, though. That's good to see. Dalton Schultz, not great. Dare, not great. Mechie, not much, but he only had 3 snaps. Woods, not very much, 8 snaps. This one was crazy to me. Blake Fisher, it seemed like he played a good game, but according to PFF, he had a 46 grade overall and a 33.3 pass grade. That is not good. I'm sure he might have played decent, but a lot of that is masked by CJ's ability to scramble and extend plays. I'll pull up here in a second with next gen stats too, like pressure rates, like RO line. I think we give up a pretty high amount of pressure rates for sure, but it's been masked by CJ's ability to avoid the sack and extend the play. But that's offense. We'll go over. We could do this. I don't know if I've done this with y'all, but this is pretty cool. You can do like areas of the field where they pass at. Deep middle, CJ was, like a perfect passer rating. Intermediate, middle of the field, left of the hash, he was pretty good. Middle of the field, not so good. Right side, good. Short passes, 0 to 10 yards, he was pretty much good across the board, except for one throw on the right, and then he had stuff here behind the line of scrimmage, all the screen passes. But it's cool too. They break it down by like pressure, like whether you're kept clean, his grades are high. Under pressure was 71.8. Blitz versus not blitz, 73 blitz, not blitz, 86.4 in blitz. So please blitz CJ Stroud. You can break it down to like play action, no play action, better at play action. He's so good overall. I think this is something we need to improve upon. Our screen game has been terrible. Running back, halfback, and tight end screens, it's been non-effective. And these grades are indicative of that. I mean, I don't know if it's just like he's, killing plays or it's not there, but I feel like the passes aren't great on some of these screens by him. And then it goes by depth, all that good stuff. So if y'all ever want to know any of this stuff, like you're curious, just shoot me a DM. I'll pull it up, text it to you. And you can even do like receiving grades. This is cool. Like if you ever want to see like snaps, like where their splits are, you can see like slot percentage. So like Nico is 80% out wide to 20% slot. He's your typical X receiver. And then Tank Dell is 75 to 25%. He's your Z receiver. He goes into the slot a little bit more. And then Diggs is like 50-50. And so he's basically a slot receiver, except for when it's 2 wide receiver sets. When Nico is healthy, he's the outside receiver. So it's kind of a cool thing to see. Let's see what else. You can even do matchups, rushing. So this is like rushing where I went to see run types right here. This is when I was able to see we had 8 zone runs and 15 gap runs. We almost had twice as many gap runs. So we are evolving or trying new things. We're trying new things. Let's just look at that. Let's just go to week 1 and look at that. Week 1, run type. 30 zone runs, 5 gap runs. Week 1, Nixon. So with Nixon in, we're a zone running team. With him out, we're not. Week 2, he was still healthy. 12-6, so 2-to-1 ratio. Go to week 3, Nixon's out. It's also a game where we only had 9 attempts, 9-to-1. So we're still running a high ratio. Now come week 4 against the Jags, this is when the trend changes. We run 9 zone attempts to 12 gap attempts. Now, that was the first time that I had noticed that it was higher. And then now we ramped it up 8 to 15. So I mean that's a pretty significant thing happening there. So, um, yeah, look at defense real quick. Defense, why is it doing that? All right, defense. Daniil Hunter finally had a good graded game. Daniil Hunter's kind of been underwhelming a little bit so far. Obviously it's good to keep in mind that, we all want sacks and QB hits, but, there are pressures and some of them aren't created equal and it could be inflated, but it's the same theme that I've said, and it happened again against Buffalo is finishing. We get there. We just don't quite finish the rush. I will say, though, that Bills O-line was really, really good. So, and it did seem to, listening to D'Amico, his game plan was just to get there and try and contain Josh. And what he said, like, we basically weren't trying to get sacks. And I think you could say he probably had 5, 6, 7 times that he flushed the pocket and threw incompletions near the line of scrimmage, which is almost like a sack. So, I mean, they did have an impact on the game. Henry T has been awesome. He had another great game. Stingley, bounce back game, pretty good game. Will played a pretty good game. Again, they graded well, but they didn't get the sacks, which, that's not always indicative of how you played. Khalil Davis is somebody who had a great game that's not being talked about enough. Aziz, I feel like he should be graded higher potentially, but he did drop those 2 picks. He had a good game, flu game. Mark Edwards, not bad. Petrie, not bad. Dylan Horton, shout out Dylan Horton, man. I mean, beating stage 4 cancer and coming back in less than a year and playing. And then this was huge because of our injuries. I think, Derek Barnett and I think another end also couldn't play. So we needed him, and he played, Dylan Horton played 15 snaps. I mean, that was clutch. Jimmy Ward played okay. So, I mean, we don't have any superb grades, but it's all solid across the board, except for Kamari Lassiter got graded bad. I guess he did get beat. They probably got him on that, touchdown to Keon. Foley got graded bad, and Kalen Bullock got graded bad. I will say Kalen Bullock he's a great athlete, but I still think he's learning. I noticed it in his first start against Jacksonville. He obviously had a big play late in the game with that tackle to save the game, in my opinion. But I could tell he looked out of position and lost. It wasn't from a lack of ability. It's just a lack of knowledge and time and experience of understanding the defense, where to be, that kind of stuff, being out of position. And then it looks like Tim Settle had a pretty bad game, 35 snaps. That's not good. So, I mean, unless y'all got anything with the Bills game, I'm done with it, man. I mean, both teams had a lot of injuries, so there's no excuses on either side. I do think the Bills are overrated or were overrated. Both teams heading in, strength of schedule, Bills had 28th ranked strength of schedule played, and the Texans had the 26th. So, we both hadn't played world beater of teams overall. But I still think it was a good statement win, finding ways to win a bunch of different ways. So I'm happy. I'm blessed with the win. Let's see some Levis grades for just shits and giggles. I don't want to hurt my viewers' eyes with that, bro. Sorry. Dante, I don't think the screen game towards the running back worked all season. Every time we do that screen, the running back. Yeah, and that's what the grades indicate, man. I mean, and that's something we need. I mean, you need that to kind of open other things up and keep the defense honest. That could help with pass pro. Getting the pressure off of us. But I don't know if that's just because we're not scheming it right. We're not blocking it right. Running back's not running his route right. CJ's not throwing it correct or accurate. Whatever it is, it's terrible. That needs to be fixed. I feel like every team you see is hitting 20, 30-yard, at least 1 or 2 a game of screenplays, and we have none. It's terrible. 713 Sportscast. Shout out Ruben. If y'all don't follow Ruben, I'm sure y'all do. He's on IG in the comments, but he's all over YouTube and Twitter. Y'all give him a follow. I'm on the round table with him. Sear Pressey, thoughts on Henry stepping up on defense? Henry T has been quite the development. So the emergence of Henry T makes it easier for us to continue to allow Christian Harris to come back. We have the ability now to not have to rush him. If we had bad linebacker play and a bad record, we might be more inclined to rush back Christian Harris, but that gives us that ability. That's been clutch. So that's nice to have. But yeah, we can kind of look at let me pull up Texans. We got the Patriots coming up. Get it right here. Let's see, Patriots. Yeah, so I think the theme for the Patriots, and I kind of like came to this idea like on Sunday, real briefly looking into it. But then the more I've looked into it all week, the way this game is won it's simple. It's won with our defense. Even before they brought in Drake May, the recipe to win is the same. And I'm sure we've all seen it on Twitter or social media, how putrid their O-line is and how good our front seven is. That's where we win the game. And so I will say, brace yourselves. I know it's a bad team. They're 1-4, but they have a couple games they could have won on top of that. They could be 2-3 or even 3-2, honestly. They're still not a terrible team. I mean, everyone in the NFL can be live any week, but it's definitely a revenge game for me. I went to the season with the Letterman jackets when we were like 7-0, wherever it was, and went into Foxborough thinking we were like legit contenders. And I wore a red J.J. Watt jersey. In that first drive, we got like 1 or 2 first downs, and I cheered. And that was the only and last time I cheered that game. And I got harassed the entire game by any and every Patriots fan, no matter how young or old, 5-year-old kids to 90-year-old grandmas, all of them cursing at me, cussing me out. It was a terrible experience. So this is redemption for that. And this is also redemption for the last time we played a rookie quarterback for the Patriots making his first start was Jacoby Brissett. We all thought we would win that game, and we did not win that game. So this is revenge for that, obviously hoping for a different outcome. But I will say, though, as fans, we need to brace ourselves. Oh, it's a terrible team. We're favored by 7. We should blow them out. Yes, we should. I want us to, but a win's a win, and I could definitely see this being a D'Amico win, kind of like the Bears. You have a rookie quarterback. I'm going to put it all on my defense. I'm going to be super conservative on offense. So I'm just saying it right now. Prepare yourselves. I hope that's not the case, but I could definitely see that happening. So he does kind of, in my opinion, get a feel for the game. Like if he feels like his defense is shutting out their offense, the last thing that he wants to do is give them easy field position with a turnover. So you can kind of see how the philosophy changes in that regard. But I think that we have such an advantage with our defense to their offense that it should still be a blowout with conservative game plan and play calling. I think we get several turnovers. Defense might get some scores or at least get us the ball in their end of the field, give us short fields on offense. I think this is a stat padding game for our defensive line for sacks. Kind of like the Bears game, it was like 6 or 7 sacks, and then not much in the other games. This could be they come in bunches type thing. So I would definitely think that's the case. And that's pretty much our key to victory overall. And we kind of touched on earlier what it's like without let me share this real quick. Sorry, a little scattering. I meant to show this earlier. I was going to look at Cam Akers just to kind of show that he's averaging 3.9 yards per carry. And so in every game except the Vikings, he's averaged over 4 yards a carry. So he's not as bad as we think. But yeah, sorry about that. We'll get back to here. No. Let me share the screen here. I'll go to Texans versus Patriots. But yeah, so the overall key to the game is just through defense. Offensively, I hope we get things going. Their defense runs cover one the most out of any coverage, like 28, 29%. And I think the next ones after that are cover three and then some cover two. They run two high safety shells. So cover two, cover four, and cover six. I believe it was like less than mid 30s. I could pull up the graph. I had it, but I closed it out. But we saw this too going into the Jags game. The Jags ran a lot of cover one prior to our game, but they adjusted their game plan how other teams had against us and ran more cover two and two high shells. So just because the Pats run cover one doesn't mean that they'll continue to do that, but I think it's a good chance they will for a couple of reasons. Nico Collins is out, and they have a shutdown man corner in Christian Gonzalez. That also changes how you can call your defense if you have someone like that. So that will be good for us. CJ versus man coverage is like absolutely lights out. I forget the stats, but I saw some good ones earlier. So if you think about that offensively, if we get some one-on-one looks with Diggs and Tank, Metch, Hutch, whoever else, tight ends, CJ can really go to work. But again, I don't know what our game plan will be like. I hope we blow them out, but I could see us winning like a 20-3 or 23-3 with some good defensive plays in there, and then us just grinding out clock. Hopefully Pierce plays well and can kind of give us that ground game to kind of put the air out of the clock type thing. I think that will happen. So there's really not a lot to go into this game. It can be a trap game. I see a lot of people saying like, "Oh, don't take it for granted." I'm not taking it for granted. I do think it is wise to not rush guys back for this game, though. But I think two things can be true at once. I think you can be smart in the fact that you're not going to rush back Mixon for this game. You can be smart that you put Nico on IR. And then any other injuries where guys are potentially not going to play, I think you can still, not play them, but still not underestimate your opponent. I mean, you look at the Bills game, look at all the guys we had out, and we still beat the Bills, who are a good contender. So, I mean, it's just because we're resting guys doesn't mean we are taking them for granted. I think it's just being wise. I guess I have a couple of bookmarks on Twitter of some interesting things. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. Let's see. More bookmarks. Let's see here. Share this tab instead. So the injury report. I need to zoom in on that sucker. I think we're stressing on this one, fellas. Come on. Sorry, it won't zoom in, but Derek Barnett did not practice. Stephon Diggs was limited. Kenyon Green did not practice. Jake Hansen did not practice back. Kenyon Green was a knee. Kurt Heinisch practiced. That's a good development. Titus Howard, hamstring, did not practice. I don't know if he'll come back. Kamari Lassiter's shoulder did not practice. That is an interesting development. And we saw reports today, potentially he may not play. So I will get into the depth chart. I believe Chris Boyd. Let's see who else are some other options. So that may be an area of concern, but if there was ever a game to not have to worry about your cornerback two, it would be this game. I'll pull up the depth chart here in a second after I go through the rest of this. Joe Mixon, obviously ankle. I think I understand people are frustrated, but he had a high ankle sprain. It's typically 4 to 6 weeks. We're right at the 4-week mark. I know some people say, well, why didn't we just put him on IR? I think it's a couple things. We didn't know it'd be this long. Injuries kind of change as they go. And then also you can kind of gauge it based off of how the games are playing out. Like if we're still winning without them, minus the Minnesota game, you buy yourself more time essentially. Let's see. Hubbard's a free agent next year. Panthers aren't going anywhere. Yeah, Chuba Hubbard. I think the plan should be focused around a 2-week plan for beating the Packers. Yes, this is kind of what I'm getting at with these injuries. Like, again, you can still think ahead as far as saving guys without taking the Patriots for granted, but you can also be thinking about the Packers. But, yeah, I mean, I guess that's the definition of a trap game is thinking ahead. But I guess you could be smart about it and be diligent about it, but Robert Woods did not practice with a foot. So if he's banged up, then Mechie might get more run in the slot as a backup. Jimmy Ward did not practice with a groin. I assume that's the same thing he might have had in the game. Tunsil did not practice with an ankle. I'm sure he'll be fine because he played on his ankle last week. Damian Pierce, hamstring limited. He practiced the first time. Hope he's back. Delshon Phillips. Yeah, so I think the biggest ones on those are Titus Howard. Will he be back? I hope so because Blake Fisher, pass pro, wasn't great. But if not, it's not the worst in the world. We still made do without it. Kenyon Green, I hope that's nothing serious. But even then, if it is, his play, aside from week one, has not been stellar. So someone like Kendrick Green may not be terrible. Jimmy Ward, I think he's a very undervalued, underappreciated piece to our defense. I hope he's good to go. But yeah, really, Kamari Lassiter is the big one, the cornerback too. But like I said, I mean, I think it will be a drop-off. I'll share the depth chart here. But if there's ever a time to have these injuries, it is against the Patriots. But yeah, so D'Angelo Ross and Chris Boyd are backups, potentially Kadar Holman or Miles Bryant. I'm not sure who would be next up. Probably D'Angelo Ross or Chris Boyd. But, hopefully it's not bad, and hopefully no more new injuries come up. Here's some stuff here about the matchups. The Patriots pass protection rankings in 2024, 32nd in pressure rate, 30th in sack rate. And then you juxtapose that with the Texans pass rush is sack rate is 6, which is crazy. We feel like we have no sacks. And our blitz success rate is 1st. So we're about to – that's what's crazy is against the Bears, we basically blitzed Caleb Williams like every play in the second half. We're about to do that again. We're about to blitz the shit out of Drake May. So good luck, Drake May. See what else I got bookmarked. So yeah, here's some of the tweet I had made over a graph. They run 2 high safeties looks 38% of the time. Again, that includes cover 2, cover 4, and cover 6. The most often ran coverage is cover 1. Here's the graph here. Y'all can't see it. I know. I'm sorry. But what else they run is also their EPA for defense. They're kind of like bottom half of the league. They run 28% of cover 1, 23% cover 2, and then the next highest is cover 3 at 21%. So that's like the gist of what they do, essentially. It was cover 1, then 2, and then 3. So, I mean, that's pretty easy as a QB. If it's 2 high safeties, it's going to be cover 2. And then if you have 1 high safety, you just figure out, use motion. Is it man or is it but obviously they can, disguise post-snap, pre- and post-snap. But, anybody got any questions? I want to start getting this show, like I keep saying it, but it's just hard for me to kind of get it rolling. But maybe get it more, like, formatted with, like, videos and whatnot and maybe go over, like, that's what I would like to do is, like, the clips that I make of, like, Casario giving his scouting report or D'Amico, maybe give y'all, like, some snippets of what they're saying and then give you my opinion on what they're saying on top of that. But Brandon says, oh, really? What did you hear? Like, it was bad from the game or, like, did he re-aggravate it? Because I think he finished the game. I mean, he played, just looking at the snap count here on the PFF, Jimmy Ward, no, you're right. He only played 12 snaps. So, yeah. Yeah, I haven't finished watching the All-22, but, the grade on Fisher could not be indicative of how he played. But, the biggest thing for us is sacks. You didn't see him getting beat too often over there. You think they continue running? Yeah, so that was something I had posted, but I would think that we might see less of it, especially against the Patriots. They seem to be a team that runs a lot of cover 3 or cover 1 and cover 3 with some cover 2. But And the other thing too is, teams have used two high safeties, but CJ's still shredding them. It's, I guess, the only thing stopping us is ourselves when we kind of. And CJ has said this. I think he was asked about this on the Pat McAfee show about him seeing cover two a lot, and he said it's just a bend but don't break defense. So basically, you're just making an offense be patient, take the underneath, take the underneath, take the underneath, and hoping they either make a turnover or mistakes, which is what we've done, turnovers, and we've had penalties that get you behind the sticks. And then now when you have to face a defense like that with so many yards to gain, it's dang near impossible. So that's the bend but don't break defense. On paper, it looks like we should blow them out of the water, but games like this are always tight. But yeah, I agree. And then, and I know that D'Amico Ryans has no problem winning ugly. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, as a fan base, one, prepare yourself for it. Two, don't be upset if we win and it's close. A win's still a win. But I wouldn't be surprised if that's their game plan, is just, conservative as hell on offense, run the ball, nothing crazy, rely on the defense to just absolutely shut down Drake May. Don't give them any cheap field position. Let him make mistakes. That's how I see it going. May is going to die. Texans by 40. I'm hoping it's our first big blowout game to kind of get the point differential going, but he may die. That's a good one. He may or may not. I don't got much else. I mean, that's kind of all. Is there anything you might have questions on that I didn't cover? Just let me know. Even Steven on IG said, I think there's any way we can realistically trade for Deebo Samuel. I saw that. I don't know if it makes sense to trade for a receiver. I mean, unless Nico is projected to be out 7-8 weeks, but I would imagine he's out roughly 4, maybe 5 weeks. I don't think it makes sense to waste capital and then you add a receiver, unless that, I mean, it depends on the extent of the injury, but if Nico returns in 4 weeks and now we had trouble feeding 3 receivers, what are we going to do with 4 receivers? Like, you invest all this capital and money in these guys, and then we all get mad when they don't get targets. Well, like, there's only so many targets to go around. But the aspect of Samuel, being able to be that X factor in the Shanahan offense with the jet sweeps and whatnot, that's intriguing. But we don't have room. And the people have said Devontae Adams, that doesn't make sense to me. He would play X for Nico. But then when Nico comes back, what do you do with him? Like, you just have too many assets in one position group. And I think we have plenty of answers within our room. I think there's no reason to go get a receiver. How do you think we'll incorporate Dell in the next weeks? I can't talk right now. I think Dell is. I think it's just a product of how I mentioned earlier. It's just Nico's been so damn good that CJ just goes to Nico. And I think Dell is the same as he always been. It's just him getting those looks. He'll step up when his name is called. And then this is probably partly too is like getting into the game flow. Like, if you don't really kind of get targeted till late, you kind of never get your rhythm as a receiver. You kind of get tuned out of the game to an extent. So I think we'll see a lot of those, deep outs, 10, 20-yard outs by him, comeback routes, curl routes, some dig routes. But the one area that I think Tank Dell will get involved is he will replace Nico in being CJ's primary target in that scramble drill. I could see him having like a 50-yard touchdown on the scramble drill in this game. That would be awesome to see. No, May, he will. May picked the worst year to be named Drake. Man, that sucks, bro. That's facts, though. Who do you think the key player to step up defensively on Sunday? That's a good question. Key player defensively on Sunday. So the Patriots receiving core, I think, is kind of sneakily underrated. They got a bunch of young, good receivers, but they're still finding their way. But I would say it has to be with I got to say Danielle Hunter. He's our prize pickup, and he hasn't really produced. He has pressures, but as far as QB hits and sacks, we need Danielle Hunter to get some sacks and get us a turnover, man. I mean, get Drake May to throw a pick or strip sack or something, but I would say he is the key player. we need him to step up and live up to the billing. That would be my key player on defense. But yeah, guys, that's all I got. If y'all haven't, check out my website. I'm doing a lot of cool stuff there. I recently created profiles, so you can kind of. My idea there is like, if anybody has a link tree where basically you can like put all your different social media stuff on. This can at the very least replace that, where like you can make a profile on my website and have all your social media stuff. And if you ever need to share it, you just have that link and it's all that stuff right there. You can also like update your photos. If you ever want to write, I have the option. You can start writing on the website. I just opened a Discord on there, so we can start having conversations on there. I can open one up for each game day, or like today, if there's like a Nico injury. And it's pretty cool too, because you can add all kind of text and whatever to it, images and links. So that's an aspect. And the profile is really good too. If you're a content creator or on a podcast, you can add that info too, and you can have your own page where all that can be uploaded. Just another resource. But my idea on the website is the same as what I'm essentially doing on social media, to be a one-stop shop. I'm basically aggregating everything, making it easier for you to be a Texans fan. I'm going out and doing all the hard work and finding all the stuff and putting it in one place. So if you haven't, check it out. And I would really appreciate if y'all could sign up for the email list. The profile, if that's too much for you, fine. But if you could sign up for the email list, that'd be great. I have a lot of cool merch coming out. I got some really good graphic design tees coming out very, very soon. And then I've been writing articles. I'm going to start trying to do it more. I just do so much of my time with content that I can't get away to go write articles, but I'm really going to start doing that, and just giving y'all more updates on everything. And the newsletter will be a good way to kind of stay in touch. But yeah, I'll show y'all a couple of videos on that before I head out, and then but yeah, if y'all ever need anything, like, I try to like reply to like any kind of question or comment, but sometimes there's just too much going on. If you ever ask me a question or tag me and I don't answer, just DM me. I'll always respond to a DM. But let's see here. Yeah, that's all I got, fellas. I appreciate y'all tuning in. Someone, Rosales on Instagram, about to get hit by a hurricane soon. It's already bad. Damn, man. Yeah, I didn't realize how many fans we had in Florida that are Texans fans. All y'all in Florida, stay safe, man. We're thinking about you guys. We know what that's like to go through that stuff. So, but yeah, I appreciate you guys. I really appreciate the support. If you can, check out my website, houstonstresses.com. Until next time, man, we bless them.